After prison, he finds a ranch at the bottom of Red Rock Valley, but what he finds changes his life. Marcus Harrison walked over the loose stones of the steep trail, feeling the weight of 5 years in prison with each weary step. The faded orange jumpsuit clung to his sweaty body, and the long-dreamed-of freedom felt more frightening than comforting. That's when he spotted the abandoned ranch at the bottom of the valley. The dark wooden structure contrasted with the grey rocks around it, as if it were a refuge forgotten by time. Marcus carefully descended the rocky trail, observing every detail of the property that seemed not to have received visitors for years. The front door creaked as it was pushed open, revealing a dusty but still habitable interior. Furniture covered by white sheets gave the place a ghostly air. The smell of mold mixed with old wood filled his nostrils as he explored the empty rooms. That's when he heard the muffled sound of crying coming from the back of the property. Marcus froze for a moment, wondering if he wasn't imagining things. The sound repeated, clearer this time. It was definitely a child crying. His heart raced as he walked toward the back of the house, passing through a kitchen with open cabinets and dirty dishes piled in the sink. The back door was ajar, and the crying came from a smaller building at the rear of the lot. Marcus approached slowly, fearing what he might find. The wooden barn had a loose board, creating a crack through which he could peek. Huddled in a corner, on a pile of old hay, was a girl of about 8 years old. Her brown hair was tangled, and her dirty clothes suggested she had been there for days. Tears streamed down her thin cheeks as she hugged a worn cloth doll. "Hey, little one," Marcus called softly, carefully pushing the barn door open. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up with frightened eyes and immediately shrank further back into the corner. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Marcus noticed how she watched him fearfully, probably because of his prison clothes. "Easy, I won't hurt you," he continued, keeping his distance. "My name is Marcus. What's your name?" The child just stared at him, clutching the doll to her chest. Marcus noticed an empty bowl beside her and cookie crumbs scattered on the floor. She had been there long enough to get hungry. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently. "I can look for something for you to eat in the house." For a few minutes, Marcus waited for a response that didn't come. The girl remained still, just watching his every move. He decided the best approach would be to demonstrate through actions, not words. He went back to the kitchen and searched the cabinets until he found a still-sealed tin of cookies and some milk that hadn't spoiled yet. He prepared a small snack and returned to the barn, placing the plate on the floor at a safe distance from the girl. "I'll leave this here for you," he said, stepping back again. "You don't need to be afraid. I just want to help." Marcus left the barn and sat on the back steps of the house, from where he could hear any movement. After a few minutes, he heard the sound of small footsteps and the plate being dragged. Hunger had overcome fear, at least temporarily. As he waited, he observed Red Rock Valley around him. The mountains rose like silent guardians, creating a feeling of almost total isolation. How had a child ended up in such a remote place, and why was she alone? When he returned to the barn, he found the plate empty and the girl back in her corner. This time, however, she didn't seem as scared. Her large eyes followed him with cautious curiosity. "Feeling better now?" he asked, picking up the plate. "If you want, you can sleep in the house. It's more comfortable than here." The girl shook her head timidly, indicating she preferred to stay where she was. Marcus respected her decision, but brought some old blankets and pillows he found in the house. "I'll stay nearby," he said, arranging the blankets for her. "If you need anything, just call." That first night, Marcus slept on the house's porch, from where he could hear any noise coming from the barn. He woke several times during the night, worried about the mysterious child he had found. The next morning he prepared a simple breakfast and brought it to her again. This time the girl accepted the food with less fear, even murmuring an almost inaudible, "Thank you." "You're welcome," Marcus smiled, sitting on the barn floor at a respectful distance. "Can you tell me your name now?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing, the girl hesitated for a moment before whispering, Chloe. Chloe, Marcus repeated, savoring the name. That's a beautiful name. Can you tell me how you got here, Chloe? The question brought tears back to her eyes. Chloe shook her head vigorously, clearly not wanting to talk about it. Marcus decided not to press, at least not yet. In the following days, a strange routine established itself between them. Marcus took care of Chloe's basic needs, always respecting her space and her silences. He cleaned the house, fixed some loose boards, and made the place more livable. Chloe began to venture outside the barn during the day, watching Marcus work. She didn't talk much, but her constant presence indicated she was starting to trust him. What Marcus noticed most was how she drew obsessively. Any scrap of paper she found became a canvas for her drawings. All of them depicted the same thing: a small house with a white fence, flowers in the garden, and figures of people in the windows. Chloe drew that house repeatedly, with details that varied slightly each time. "It's a beautiful house," Marcus commented one day, looking over her shoulder. "Is that where you lived?" Chloe stopped drawing and looked at him with a sad expression. She nodded slowly before returning to her drawing, this time adding dark clouds in the sky. Marcus began to understand that those drawings were her way of processing some trauma or loss. The obsessive repetition of the same image suggested a fixation on something she had lost or left behind. One afternoon, while Chloe was drawing on the porch and Marcus was fixing the backyard fence, the sound of an engine echoed through the valley. They both turned to see an old Jeep climbing the steep trail toward the ranch. The vehicle stopped in a cloud of dust, and an elderly woman got out with difficulty. She had grey hair tied in a messy bun and wore simple work clothes. Her eyes scanned the ranch until they found Chloe on the porch. "Chloe!" she shouted, running toward the girl with an agility surprising for her age. Chloe's reaction was immediate. She stood up and ran into the woman's arms, who held her in a tight hug. Marcus watched the touching scene, relieved that Chloe had finally found someone she knew. But when the woman looked up and saw Marcus, her expression changed completely. The relief turned to shock, then to something that seemed like recognition, and it wasn't a happy recognition. "You," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I know you." Marcus felt a chill in his stomach. There was something in the way she looked at him that stirred memories he preferred to keep buried. The woman approached slowly, still holding Chloe close. "You are Marcus Harrison," she stated, not as a question. "The man who destroyed my family 5 years ago." Marcus Harrison's world collapsed in that moment. The pieces of a terrible puzzle began to fit together in his mind. The elderly woman, the child, the isolated ranch. It couldn't be a coincidence. "Ma'am," he began, but she interrupted him. "My name is Martha. Martha Sterling. And this," she held Chloe tighter, "is my granddaughter. The daughter of the woman you killed in that accident." Chloe looked from one to the other, clearly confused by the sudden tension in the air. Marcus felt his legs weaken. The woman who had lost her life in the accident that sent him to prison, she had a daughter, and that daughter was now in his arms. I didn't know," Marcus stammered, instinctively stepping back. "Of course you didn't," Martha replied bitterly. "You were too drunk to care about the consequences of what you did." The words hit Marcus like punches to the gut. He vaguely remembered the trial, the tears of the victim's family, but the years in prison had blurred many details. Now seeing Chloe, the child he had cared for these past few days, as the granddaughter of his crime's victim, the reality became unbearably cruel. "How did Chloe get here?" he asked, trying to process the impossible situation. "She ran away," Martha explained, her voice breaking, "ran away from her adoptive parents' home when she found out they were moving to another state. She must have remembered this ranch from the times I brought her here when she was younger." Marcus watched Chloe, who was now staring at him with a puzzled expression. She clearly didn't understand the connection between him and her family, nor the gravity of the situation. "You have to leave," Martha said firmly. "Right now, I don't want my granddaughter spending another second near you." "Grandma," Chloe spoke for the first time since Martha's arrival. "He helped me. He gave me food and blankets." The child's innocent voice made the situation even more painful. Marcus knew he needed to leave, but something in his heart refused to abandon Chloe. In the last few days, caring for her had awakened feelings he didn't know he possessed. "Chloe, you don't understand," Martha tried to explain gently. "This man, he did something very bad to our family. But he's good to me," Chloe insisted, looking at Marcus with trusting eyes. "He protected me." Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. Chloe's trust was simultaneously the most beautiful and most painful thing he had ever experienced. How could he explain to an 8-year-old that he had taken her mother's life? "I'll go," he said finally, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I'm sorry for everything." He turned to leave, but Chloe broke free from Martha's arms and ran to him, clinging to his leg. "Don't go," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "Please, Uncle Marcus, don't leave me." Marcus's heart shattered. He knelt and looked into the girl's eyes, trying to find words that could explain the inexplicable. "Chloe, you have your grandma now," he said softly. "She'll take care of you much better than I can." "But I don't want you to go," Chloe insisted, holding on even tighter. "You're my friend." Martha watched the scene with a mixture of pain and confusion. It was obvious Chloe had formed a strong bond with Marcus, something she hadn't expected to find. "Chloe, come here," she called, extending her arms. "Let's talk." But Chloe shook her head and hid behind Marcus. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on either adult present. The orphaned child had found comfort in the arms of the man responsible for her condition. "She's never attached herself to anyone like this," Martha murmured more to herself. "Not to her adoptive parents, not even to me completely." Marcus slowly stood up, with Chloe still clinging to his legs. He looked at Martha, seeing not just anger in her eyes, but also confusion and a deep pain he recognized well. "Mrs. Sterling, I know nothing I can say can undo what happened," he began. "But if I could just stay until Chloe feels more secure with you—" "Absolutely not," Martha cut him off. "You have no right to be near her." "Grandma, please," Chloe spoke, finally turning to her grandmother. "He took care of me when I was scared. Don't send him away." The child's plea shook Martha's resolve. She could see that Chloe was genuinely attached to Marcus, but the idea of allowing the man who had destroyed her family to stay near her granddaughter was almost unbearable. "Why did you take care of her?" she asked finally. "Why didn't you call the authorities when you found her?" Marcus thought about the question. He wasn't entirely sure of the full answer himself. There was something about Chloe that had touched a part of his soul he thought was dead forever. "Because she needed it," he replied simply, "and I needed to help someone, instead of only causing pain." The raw honesty of the answer surprised Martha. She had expected excuses or justifications, not that vulnerable admission from someone seeking redemption. "What does Chloe draw all the time?" she asked, noticing the papers scattered across the porch. "The same house," Marcus explained. "Always the same house with people in the windows." Martha picked up one of the drawings, and her eyes filled with tears. It was the house where Chloe had lived with her mother before the accident. The child was trying to reconstruct her lost life through art. "She doesn't talk about what happened," Marcus continued, "but these drawings, they seem to be the only way she processes the loss." "The foster parents never understood that," Martha murmured. "They thought it was just a silly hobby." The revelation created a moment of shared understanding between the two adults. Both saw Chloe not just as a traumatized child, but as a little soul trying to find her place in the world. "Has she eaten properly these days?" Martha asked, her maternal concern temporarily overriding her resentment. "Yes. I prepared all her meals and made sure she had warm blankets at night." "And has she spoken, besides what we heard now?" "Very little. Mostly about the drawings or when she needed something basic." Martha watched her granddaughter, who still stayed close to Marcus. There was something in Chloe's posture she hadn't seen in a long time: safety. The child seemed genuinely at peace in his presence. "This doesn't make sense," she said finally. "How can he be good for her when you are—" "When I'm the man who caused all her pain," Marcus finished. "I know." It doesn't make sense to me either. They fell silent for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. Chloe took advantage of the pause to show her drawings to her grandmother, explaining details only she understood. "This is our house, Grandma," she said, pointing to one of the figures in the windows. "And this is Mommy waving to us." The child's innocent words brought fresh tears to Martha's eyes. Chloe still didn't fully understand that her mother was dead, only that she wasn't coming home anymore. "Is Grandma sad?" Chloe asked, noticing the tears. "A little, sweetheart," Martha admitted, "but it's a good sad, because you're safe now." "Uncle Marcus gets sad sometimes too," Chloe commented casually. "I see him cry when he thinks I'm not looking." The child's observation struck Marcus like lightning. He hadn't realized Chloe had noticed his moments of quiet despair. "Why do you cry, Uncle Marcus?" Chloe asked directly. Marcus looked at Martha, seeking guidance on how to respond. The elderly woman seemed to wrestle with herself before making an almost imperceptible gesture for him to answer. "Because I did bad things in the past, Chloe," he said carefully, "and that makes me very sad." "Everyone does bad things sometimes," Chloe replied, with the simple wisdom of children. "What's important is to be good afterward." The phrase echoed in the silence of Red Rock Valley. An 8-year-old had articulated the concept of redemption better than any adult could. "Chloe is right," Martha said slowly, surprising herself. "But some bad things are harder to forgive than others." The rest of the day passed in a strange tension. Martha didn't order Marcus to leave immediately, but she also didn't say he could stay. Chloe, oblivious to the complexity of the situation, continued treating them both with the natural affection of a child. When the sun began to set behind the Rocky Mountains, Martha finally addressed the elephant in the room. "Where did you plan to sleep tonight?" she asked Marcus. "On the porch, like the other nights," he replied. "Chloe prefers to sleep in the barn, and I stay nearby in case she needs anything. You haven't slept in the house?" It didn't seem appropriate. "This isn't my place." The answer revealed a side of Marcus that Martha hadn't expected: genuine humility and respect for boundaries. During the years she had fantasized about confronting him, she had imagined an arrogant, remorseless man. The reality was quite different. "For one night," she finally said, "you can sleep on the living room sofa, but tomorrow we need to decide what to do." Chloe was thrilled with the news, as if it were a personal victory. Marcus simply nodded, grateful for a few more hours before facing an uncertain reality. That night, as the three of them shared the space for the first time, each lay awake, processing the surreal events of the day. Martha questioned her own contradictory feelings. Marcus faced renewed guilt in a more personal way than he had ever experienced. And Chloe, in the innocence of her 8 years, was simply happy to have the two people she loved most in the world under the same roof. Dawn brought a thick fog that covered Red Rock Valley like a grey blanket. Marcus woke early, as he always did, and quietly made coffee in the kitchen. The aroma woke Martha, who joined him without saying anything at first. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, noticing his red eyes. "I haven't slept well in 5 years," Marcus admitted, "but yesterday was especially hard. Because of what we found out. Because of Chloe. She trusts me in a way I don't deserve. And now, knowing who she is, makes everything impossible." Martha poured herself coffee and sat at the kitchen table. The dim morning light revealed worry lines on her face that seemed to have deepened overnight. "Tell me about the foster parents," Marcus asked. "Why did Chloe run away?" "Brenda and Gary," Martha sighed. "They're good people, but they never really understood what Chloe needed. They treated her like an obligation, not a daughter." "And they're moving?" "Gary got a better job in another state. They decided it would be a chance for a fresh start, but they never asked what Chloe wanted." "And you? Why couldn't you get custody of her?" The question brought pain to Martha's eyes. She took a sip of coffee before answering. "I'm too old, according to the social workers. 68 years old, a widow living alone. They decided it wasn't the ideal environment for a traumatized child." "But Chloe clearly loves you. And I love her more than life itself," Martha said, her voice cracking slightly. "I lost my daughter, my son-in-law. Chloe is all I have left of my family." Marcus processed the information. The situation was even more complex than he had imagined. Martha had lost not only a daughter in the accident, but also the chance to raise her granddaughter. Do the adoptive parents know where Chloe is? Not yet. I called them yesterday saying I'd found her and that she was safe, but I didn't say where. I needed time to think. Time to decide what? Whether I should turn you over to the authorities or, she hesitated, or if there's some other way to resolve this. The conversation was interrupted by Chloe's arrival, as she appeared in the kitchen, rubbing her eyes sleepily. She instinctively went to Marcus, who lifted her into his arms without thinking. "Good morning, little one," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Good morning, Uncle Marcus." "Good morning, Grandma," she replied, settling comfortably in his arms. Martha watched the interaction with conflicting feelings. It was obvious Chloe had found in Marcus a father figure she had lost too early. But how could she accept that the man responsible for that loss could also be the one to fill it? "Chloe, sweetie," Martha called, "do you remember why you ran away from Uncle Gary and Aunt Brenda's house?" Chloe's expression turned sad immediately. She pressed herself closer to Marcus before answering. "They didn't listen to me," she said quietly. "I told them I didn't want to leave, but they said kids don't get to decide those things." "And why didn't you want to leave?" "Because you're not there, Grandma. And because I like our town. It's where Mommy lived." The simple answer revealed the depth of Chloe's attachment to her roots. She wasn't just running away from something, but trying to preserve her connection to her late mother. "Aunt Brenda and Uncle Gary aren't bad," Chloe continued, "but they don't understand my drawings. They say it's silly to keep drawing the same thing over and over." "But your drawings are important," Marcus said gently. "They tell your family story." "That's right," Chloe perked up. "Uncle Marcus understands. He even helped me find better crayons." Martha felt a pang of something she couldn't identify. Jealousy, gratitude, anger. Seeing Marcus understand her granddaughter better than the adoptive parents themselves was too confusing. "Grandma," Chloe continued, "can Uncle Marcus stay living here with us? He keeps everything tidy and makes yummy food." The child's direct question created a heavy silence in the kitchen. Martha and Marcus exchanged a look over Chloe's head, both knowing the answer was more complicated than the girl could understand. "Chloe, this ranch isn't ours," Martha explained gently. "It belonged to your daddy, but now it's complicated." "Daddy's not coming back, is he?" Chloe asked with the resigned acceptance of a child who had already lost too much. "No, sweetie. Daddy is in heaven with Mommy. So who takes care of the ranch now?" The question brought a sudden realization to Martha. She had avoided dealing with the property issue since the tragedy, leaving the ranch abandoned as a shrine to her dead. But perhaps it was time to face that responsibility too. "Technically, you're the owner now," Martha explained. "But since you're still a child, someone needs to look after the place for you." "Uncle Marcus can look after it," Chloe suggested immediately. "He's already looking after it." The child's simple logic was like a punch to the gut for both adults. From a practical standpoint, Marcus had indeed cared for the property these past days, keeping it in better condition than it had been in years. "Chloe," Martha said carefully, "do you really like Uncle Marcus?" "A lot. He doesn't yell at me, and he lets me draw as much as I want. And when I'm sad, he just sits with me without asking annoying questions." "Annoying questions? Like, why don't you forget the past? Or you need to make new friends?" "Uncle Marcus just stays with me when I need him, without saying silly stuff." The description revealed an emotional maturity in Marcus that Martha hadn't expected. He had instinctively understood that Chloe needed presence, not empty words of consolation. "And what do you think of Grandma?" Marcus asked softly. "I love Grandma," Chloe answered immediately, "but she gets very sad when she thinks about Mommy. I get sad too, but when I'm with both of you, it's less bad." The child's words revealed an emotional perception beyond her years. She had understood that both Marcus and Martha carried pains related to the same tragedy, and her presence somehow eased that suffering for everyone. "Chloe," Martha called, "can you go draw on the porch? Grandma needs to talk with Uncle Marcus about grown-up things." "Are you going to decide if he can stay?" she asked perceptively. "We're going to talk about that, yes." "Can I give my opinion later?" The question made Martha smile for the first time in days. Chloe might be traumatized, but she maintained the determined spirit she had inherited from her mother. "Of course you can, sweetheart. Your opinion is very important." Chloe hopped off Marcus's lap, gave a kiss to each of the adults, and ran off to get her colored pencils. As soon as they were alone, the weight of the situation settled over them again. "She's special," Marcus finally said. "She's just like her mother," Martha replied, tears forming in her eyes. "Stubborn, affectionate, and too smart for her own age." "Martha, I know it's impossible, but would it be possible to at least consider—" "Consider what?" "Letting the man who killed my daughter raise my granddaughter," she interrupted him, but without the anger that had marked her previous words. "I would understand if you said no. More than that, I would expect you to say no. But Chloe has become attached to you, I know. But what about the adoptive parents and the authorities? And what will people say when they find out who you are?" "I don't care about people," Marcus said firmly. "I care about Chloe. And if you think it would be better for her if I left, I will. But if there's a chance, however small, that I could help—" Martha studied his face, looking for signs of deception or self-interest. All she saw was painful sincerity and a genuine love for her granddaughter. "You understand that I'll never be able to completely forgive what you did?" she asked. "I understand, and I don't expect forgiveness. I just want a chance to do something good instead of only destroying. And if I said yes, how would that work? You can't just appear in a child's life and assume legal responsibilities without proper documentation." I hadn't thought of that," Marcus admitted. "When I found her, I only thought about taking care of her. I didn't think about the legal consequences." "You're violating your parole just by being here," Martha pointed out. "You should have registered with the authorities as soon as you left prison." The realization hit Marcus like a bolt of lightning. He had been so focused on Chloe that he had completely forgotten his legal obligations. Technically, he had been on the run for days. "I need to turn myself in," he said, rising from the table. "Sit down," Martha ordered. "If you were going to do that, you would have done it yesterday. Are you willing to face legal trouble because of Chloe?" "I'm willing to face anything for her, even going back to prison." Marcus hesitated for only a second before nodding. Martha saw in that hesitation not cowardice, but the understanding of how much he would have to lose. "Then maybe we can find a solution," she said finally. "What kind of solution?" "I don't know yet. I need to think, talk to some people. But Chloe deserves to be happy, and if you can truly do that for her—" The conversation was interrupted by the sound of a vehicle approaching. Both rushed to the window and saw a white van coming up the trail toward the ranch. "The foster parents," Martha murmured. "They must have gotten my location through the cell phone." Marcus felt panic rise in his throat. If Brenda and Gary saw him there, especially wearing prison clothes, they would call the authorities immediately. "Hide," Martha said quickly. "Let me deal with them first. And Chloe. Tell her to go to the barn and not come out until I call her." Marcus ran to the porch where Chloe was drawing, unaware of the approaching drama. "Chloe, I need you to go to the barn and hide," he said urgently. "Don't come out until your grandma says it's okay, all right?" "Why?" she asked, alarmed by his tone. "Just, please trust me. And take your drawings." Chloe quickly gathered her materials and ran to the barn. Marcus hesitated for a moment, watching her disappear before looking for a place to hide inside the house. The van stopped in front of the ranch, and a middle-aged couple got out. Brenda was a tired-looking woman with faded blonde hair. Gary seemed like a practical man, wearing work clothes and a determined expression. "Martha," Brenda called, rushing toward the house. "Where's Chloe? I was so worried." Martha came out to meet them, forcing a calm expression. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing." "She's safe," she said simply. "Where?" Gary asked, looking around. "How did she get to this remote place?" "She remembered the ranch from the times I brought her here when she was little," Martha explained. "She must have hitched a ride with a trucker to town and walked the rest of the way." "My God," Brenda sighed. An 8-year-old making a trip like that alone. Anything could have happened. But it didn't, Martha replied with a hint of irritation. She's fine, fed and safe. Where exactly is she now? Gary insisted. Playing in the back. Let me get her. Martha headed to the barn, leaving the couple waiting in front of the house. Marcus, hidden behind a kitchen window, could hear everything clearly. In the barn, she found Chloe curled up in the same corner where Marcus had found her days before. They came to get me, right? Chloe asked sadly. Yes, sweetheart. They were worried about you. I don't want to go, Grandma. I want to stay here with you and Uncle Marcus. I know, honey. But for now, you need to go with them. Shall try to sort things out, okay? Do you promise? I promise I'll do everything I can. Chloe nodded with resignation and followed her grandmother back to the house. When she saw the foster parents, she forced a polite but clearly fake smile. Chloe, Brenda exclaimed, wrapping her in a hug. I was so worried. Why did you do this to us? Sorry, Chloe murmured, but Marcus could see through the window that she didn't seem sorry, just resigned. You can't do things like this anymore, Gary said firmly. You gave us a terrible fright, and now we'll have to explain to the authorities where you've been. The authorities? Martha asked. We had to report her missing, Brenda explained. An 8-year-old disappearing, as they take these things very seriously. And now? We'll have to explain that she was with her grandmother and that she's safe, Gary said. But this will complicate the relocation process. They'll want to assess if we're suitable for custody. Marcus saw Chloe look directly at the window where he was hiding. Their eyes met for a moment, and she gave an almost imperceptible nod. Can I get my drawings? She asked. Of course, sweetheart, Brenda replied. Where are they? In the barn. Chloe ran back to get her materials, taking the opportunity to pass by the kitchen window. Don't worry, Uncle Marcus, she whispered. I'll talk to Grandma to sort everything out. Before Marcus could respond, she had already headed to the barn. His heart broke seeing the determination of an 8-year-old trying to protect the adults around her. When Chloe returned with her drawings, Gary immediately noticed the volume of artwork. How many drawings did you make here? He asked, flipping through the papers. A lot. I like to draw when I'm calm. They're all of the same house, Brenda observed with disapproval. Chloe, we've talked about this. You need to stop living in the past. It's not the past, Chloe replied with surprising firmness. It's my family. The comment created an uncomfortable silence. Martha saw how the adoptive parents didn't truly understand Chloe's emotional needs. Well, we need to go now, Gary said, clearly wanting to end the subject. We have a lot to sort out before the move. You're still moving? Martha asked. Of course. This situation only proved that Chloe needs a more structured environment, away from confusing influences. Gary's tone made it clear he considered Martha one of those confusing influences. Chloe picked up on the tension and pressed herself against her grandmother. Can I visit Grandma later? She asked. We'll see, Brenda answered vaguely. Maybe during school breaks. But that's a long time away. Chloe, stop making a scene, Gary said impatiently. You'll like the new city. It has better parks and better schools. I don't care about better parks, Chloe murmured, but didn't press further. Martha hugged her granddaughter tightly, whispering promises in her ear. Chloe nodded and reluctantly headed to the van. Martha, Brenda called before they got into the vehicle, if there are any more problems, call us first, not the authorities. We don't want any more complications. I understand, Martha replied coldly. And keep your distance for a while, Gary added. Chloe needs to stabilize emotionally before the move. The suggestion sounded more like an order, and Martha felt anger boil in her chest, but for Chloe, she controlled her reaction. Bye, Grandma, Chloe called from the van window. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, Martha answered, trying to keep her voice steady. She stood watching until the van disappeared around the bend in the trail. Only then did Marcus come out of his hiding spot and join her on the porch. They don't understand anything about her, he said. No, and now they're taking her far away where I can't protect her. What can we do? I don't know yet, but I won't give up on her, Marcus. That child is all I have left." "And me?" he asked hesitantly. "What do I do now?" Martha looked at him for a long moment. She saw a broken man carrying huge guilt, but also a genuine love for his granddaughter. "You need to get right with the authorities first," she finally said. "You can't help Chloe if you're running from the law." "And then?" "Then maybe we can find a way to work together. For Chloe." The suggestion surprised Marcus. He had expected total rejection, not a possibility of collaboration. "You would really consider that?" "I'll consider anything that could make my granddaughter happy. And she is happy when you're around. I don't understand why, considering, but I can't ignore that." "Martha, I can never make up for what I took from you." "No," she interrupted him. "You never can, but maybe you can help with what's left. If we truly change everything in our lives for Chloe, would you be willing?" "Anything," Marcus replied without hesitation. "Then we have work ahead of us." In the following days, Martha began researching legal options, while Marcus turned himself in to the local authorities. The process was more complicated than expected, but the lack of a violent history and the fact that he had turned himself in voluntarily weighed in his favor. During the preliminary hearings, Martha appeared as a character witness, something that surprised everyone present. Her statement about how Marcus had cared for Chloe created a unique narrative of redemption that captured the attention of the judicial system. "Your Honor," she said to the judge, "I am not here to defend the crime he committed. My daughter is dead because of his choices, but my granddaughter is alive, and he saved her life when he found her lost and scared." The statement moved the room. Marcus, seated next to his public defender, could hardly believe that Martha was speaking in his defense. "Mrs. Sterling," the judge asked, "are you aware that the defendant violated his parole by failing to report after his release?" "I am, Your Honor, but he did not report because he was caring for a child in need. If that is technically wrong, morally it was the right thing to do." "And would you approve of a plea agreement that allowed the defendant to serve the remainder of his parole through community service?" "More than approve, Your Honor. I would like to propose that this service be carried out by maintaining the rural property where my granddaughter was found. It is her inheritance, and it needs someone to keep it in order." The proposal created a buzz in the room. It was a creative solution that met the needs of justice while solving a practical problem. "That would be highly irregular," the judge murmured, consulting his papers. "The circumstances are irregular, Your Honor," Martha replied. "But my granddaughter is being raised by people who do not understand her needs. If she has a place to go, a family property being cared for by a responsible person, that could influence future decisions about her custody." Marcus understood Martha's plan. She was creating a legal basis to challenge the adoptive parent's custody, using the property as an anchor. The judge, intrigued by the complex situation, decided to schedule a more detailed hearing for the following week. This would give time for all involved parties to prepare their arguments. During that week, Martha worked tirelessly. She consulted lawyers specializing in family law, researched legal precedents, and, most importantly, began documenting the inadequacies of the current adoptive parents. Marcus, under limited custody but allowed to work at the ranch during the day, focused on making the property a suitable home for a child. Every repair he made was with Chloe in mind: safety gates on the stairs, a garden for her to play in, a special corner for her drawings. The transformation of the property was remarkable. The abandoned ranch became a welcoming home, full of details specifically designed for the needs of an 8-year-old child. 5 days after the van had taken Chloe away, an official car stopped at the ranch. A social worker got out, accompanied by Chloe, who immediately ran into Martha's arms. "Grandma," she shouted, jumping into her grandmother's lap, "I missed you so much." "Me too, sweetheart," Martha replied, holding her tight. "Where is Uncle Marcus?" Chloe asked, looking around. "He is sorting out some problems," Martha explained carefully. The social worker, a young man named Trevor, observed the interaction with professional interest. "Mrs. Sterling, I need to assess the conditions of the property," he said. "There has been a formal request for a change of custody, and we need to verify if this environment would be suitable for a minor. Of course. Chloe, would you like to show Mr. Trevor how you like to play here? For the next 2 hours, Trevor documented every aspect of the property. The restored ranch impressed him, especially the details clearly thought out for a child. Who did all these improvements? He asked. A family friend, Martha answered carefully. Is he still around? Sometimes. Trevor noticed how Chloe moved around the property with genuine familiarity and joy. She showed every corner, every improvement, as if it were her real home. Chloe, do you like staying here more? Or at Uncle Gary and Aunt Brenda's house? He asked. Here, she answered without hesitation. Here I can draw and no one says it's silly, and there's space to run and Grandma makes yummy food. And at the other house? Chloe hesitated, clearly not wanting to be disloyal to her adoptive parents. It's different. They work a lot and get tired, and the house is small so I can't make noise. The child's observations were carefully noted by Trevor. He had seen many custody cases, and it was obvious that Chloe flourished in the rural environment with her grandmother. Mrs. Sterling, is there anything else I should know about this situation? He asked before leaving. Martha hesitated. Should she mention Marcus? His involvement in Chloe's care? The risk was enormous, but honesty might be the best strategy. There is a man who has been helping with the property maintenance, she said finally. He was the one who found Chloe when she ran away and looked after her until I arrived. And where is he now? Sorting out legal matters related to his personal situation. Legal matters? He is on parole and getting his situation regularized with the authorities. Trevor made additional notes, clearly intrigued, but not alarmed. The fact Martha had been honest about the situation weighed in her favor. I will have to include this in my report, he said. I understand, but I hope you will also include how Chloe is clearly happier and healthier here. That will be included as well. After the social worker left, Martha sat on the porch with Chloe, both watching the golden light of late afternoon over Red Rock Valley. Grandma, is Uncle Marcus coming back today? Chloe asked. I don't know, sweetheart. He's in a complicated situation. Because of the orange clothes? The question surprised Martha. Chloe had noticed the prison jumpsuit, but hadn't commented until now. How do you know about orange clothes? She asked carefully. I saw it on TV. People who did bad things wear those clothes, but Uncle Marcus isn't bad, so it must be a mistake. The child's innocence was both touching and heartbreaking. How to explain that good people can do bad things? That redemption is possible, but consequences remain. Sometimes good people make bad choices, Chloe, and when that happens, they have to accept the consequences. Uncle Marcus made a very bad choice a few years ago. But is he good now? Now he is trying to be better, and that counts for a lot. So can he come back when he's done fixing the problems? Maybe, if the right people believe he has really changed. Chloe nodded with the wisdom of one who had already lost too much, not to understand that things don't always end as we wish. Can I draw him? She asked, to remember how good he is to me. Of course you can, sweetheart. That night, as Chloe slept in the room that had been her mother's as a child, Martha sat at the kitchen table planning her next strategy. The social worker's report would be crucial, but she knew she needed more evidence of the current adoptive parents' inadequacies. The next morning, a phone call changed everything. Martha, it was Brenda's tense voice, we need to talk. What happened? It's about Chloe. Yesterday, after the social worker brought her back, she had a breakdown. What kind of breakdown? She started crying uncontrollably, saying she wanted to go back to Grandma. Gary grew impatient and yelled at her, and then she locked herself in the bathroom and didn't come out for hours. Martha felt her heart tighten. Chloe was suffering, torn between two worlds. Is she okay now? Physically, yes, but Martha, I don't know what to do anymore. She clearly doesn't want to stay with us. And with the move coming up, what are you suggesting? Maybe it would be better if she stayed with you for a while, until she calms down. The proposal was exactly what Martha had hoped for, but she couldn't seem too eager. Brenda, that's a very big decision. You have legal custody. I know, but It's not working. And that social worker asked a lot of questions about our relationship with Chloe that made me uncomfortable. What kind of questions? About how she spends her time, if we do activities together, if we understand her special needs after the trauma. I realized maybe we haven't given her what she needs. Brenda's honest admission brought a glimmer of hope to Martha's heart. If you really think it would be better, I think so. At least temporarily. Gary doesn't fully agree, but he sees how she reacts when we talk about the move. It's like we're punishing her for existing. Would you talk to the authorities about a temporary custody transfer? I would talk to them. Gary might need a little more convincing. Brenda, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really adopt Chloe? What was your plan? There was a long pause before the answer. Honestly, we thought it would be easier, that love would come naturally and that we could give her a normal life, but she carries so much pain and we don't know how to deal with it. And now I realize that maybe she needs someone who understands her pain, someone who has gone through the same loss. It was the opening Martha needed. Brenda, if you truly want what's best for Chloe, maybe you should consider a permanent custody change. To you. To me. I know I'm old, but I love that girl more than life itself, and she blossoms when she's with me. But you lived alone before. How would it be different now? Martha took a deep breath. It was time to reveal her plans. I wouldn't be alone. There's a man who has been helping with the property and with Chloe, someone who understands trauma and second chances. Who? It's complicated to explain over the phone, but if you came here, we could talk in person. Martha, is there something you're not telling me? There are many things I haven't told you. But they all have to do with giving Chloe the life she deserves. After hanging up, Martha immediately called the lawyer she had consulted. It was time to speed up all the legal processes. If Brenda and Gary were truly willing to transfer custody, she couldn't miss this opportunity. Her second call was to the court, inquiring about the status of Marcus's case. To her surprise, the judge had decided to allow him to serve his probation by working on the property, as long as Martha officially supervised. The third call was to Marcus. Marcus, it's me, Martha. Martha, how is Chloe? She's struggling, but there might be an opportunity for change. Can you come to the ranch this afternoon? The judge approved my request. He did. You are officially authorized to work here as part of your community rehabilitation. The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long that Martha thought the call had dropped. Marcus, are you there? I am. His voice was hoarse with emotion. I just can't believe this is real. It is real, and it can get even more real if we can prove we are the best option for Chloe. We are. You and I, Marcus. An unconventional family, but a family nonetheless. That afternoon, Marcus returned to the ranch officially. Chloe, who had returned with another social worker for an evaluation visit, shouted with joy when she saw him walking along the trail. Uncle Marcus, she ran into his arms. You came back. I'm back, little one, he said, lifting her into the air, and this time I'm staying. Forever? If you want, and if your grandma allows it, and if the right people agree, maybe forever. Chloe looked at Martha, who nodded with a smile. Then I want that, she declared with the determination of a child who knew exactly what made her happy. The social worker, the same Trevor as before, observed the reunion with professional interest. Chloe's genuine joy was undeniable, as was the obvious affection between her and Marcus. Mr. Trevor extended his hand to Marcus. Harrison, Marcus Harrison, and you must be Trevor. I've heard a lot about your previous visit. Mr. Harrison, I understand you have a criminal record. I do, Marcus answered honestly. I made a terrible mistake 5 years ago that cost a life. I paid my debt to society in prison, and now I'm trying to build something positive with what's left of my life. And your connection to Chloe? I found her when she was lost and scared. I took care of her until her grandmother arrived, and we discovered we are connected by the tragedy that changed our lives. Trevor looked at Martha, seeking clarification. Trevor, Martha explained. Marcus is the man responsible for the accident that killed my daughter and my son-in-law." The social worker clearly hadn't expected this revelation. His expression changed from professional curiosity to genuine shock. "And yet you allow him to be around your granddaughter." "Not only do I allow it," Martha said firmly, "I believe he is essential to her well-being. Chloe lost her parents in the accident. Marcus lost his old life in the same event. They are both trying to heal, and somehow they heal each other. This is highly irregular." "Trevor," Chloe interrupted, tugging on his sleeve, "do you want to see how Uncle Marcus fixed up my room?" The child's innocent question broke the tension of the moment. Trevor allowed himself to be led by Chloe on a tour of the property, seeing through her eyes how every improvement had been made for her comfort and happiness. "See?" Chloe showed a low shelf full of her drawings. "Uncle Marcus made this special so my drawings stay organized. And see this window?" She pointed to a window that offered a perfect view of the valley. "He said it's so I can draw the landscape whenever I want." Every detail revealed the exceptional care Marcus had dedicated to Chloe's needs. Trevor, experienced in evaluating family environments, recognized signs of genuine parental love. "Chloe," he asked, "do you feel safe here?" "Very safe. Uncle Marcus and Grandma never yell at me. And when I'm sad, they just stay with me until I feel better." "And at the other house?" "There. It's different. Uncle Gary and Aunt Brenda are nice, but they don't understand why I draw so much. And they get upset when I talk about Mommy." Chloe's words were like daggers to the hearts of all the adults present. It was clear the foster parents, despite their good intentions, couldn't handle the child's complex emotional needs. "Trevor," Martha called when they finished the tour, "may I show you something else?" She led the social worker to a table where she had organized Chloe's drawings from different periods. The older ones made at the foster parents' house were dark and repetitive. The more recent ones made at the ranch showed a clear evolution, more colors, more details, smiling human figures. "These were made in the same week," she explained, showing two contrasting drawings, this one at the foster parents' house and this one here at the ranch. The difference was dramatic. One showed the family house surrounded by dark clouds and rain. The other showed the same house, but with sunshine, flowers, and two adult figures beside it. "Are the adult figures the two of you?" Trevor asked. "Yes," Chloe answered. "It's Grandma and Uncle Marcus taking care of Mommy's house with me." Chloe's interpretation revealed how she saw the situation, the three of them together preserving the memory and legacy of her lost family. Trevor spent the rest of the afternoon observing the natural interactions among the three. It was obvious they had developed a functional family dynamic, despite the unusual circumstances. "Mrs. Sterling," he said before leaving, "I will include all of this in my report, but I must warn you, Mr. Harrison's situation will significantly complicate any custody change process." "I understand," Martha replied, "but sometimes the most complicated situations are the most honest ones." "How so?" "Most families hide their problems during evaluations like this. We put everything on the table, our mistakes, our pain, our hopes. Chloe deserves a family that is honest about who we are." After Trevor's departure, the three sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint Red Rock Valley gold. "Uncle Marcus," Chloe asked, "will people let you stay with me?" "I don't know, kiddo. Some people think I don't deserve a second chance." "But I think you do," she said simply, "and Grandma thinks so too." "It's true," Martha confirmed, "but it's not our opinions that decide, Chloe. It's the laws and the judges." "Then we'll have to convince the laws and the judges," Chloe declared with determination. "How?" The question made the two adults smile. The child was ready to fight for her chosen family. "By being ourselves," Marcus answered. "By showing that despite everything that happened, we've managed to create something good together." "And if we can't? Then at least we tried," Martha said, "and you'll always know we fought for you." That night, as Chloe slept in her newly decorated room, Martha and Marcus sat in the kitchen planning strategies. "Brenda called today," Martha told him. "She and Gary are reconsidering custody." "Really?" "They're realizing they can't give Chloe what she needs. Brenda seemed genuinely willing to transfer custody to me. And Gary. Still resistant, but he could be persuaded if we present a united front. A united front, Marcus repeated. A week ago, you wanted me far away from here. Now we're planning to raise Chloe together. Things have changed, Martha admitted, seeing how you are with her, how she blossoms in your presence. I can't ignore that just because of my resentment. Do you still feel resentment? I do. And I always will. But I also see that Chloe needs both of us, and if I can set aside my feelings for her sake, maybe you can set aside your guilt for the same reason. It was a peace offering built on fragile but genuine ground. How do we make this work legally? Marcus asked. I don't know yet. My lawyer is researching precedents. It may be that we have to legally marry to create a recognized family unit. The suggestion made Marcus choke on his coffee. Marry? Only on paper, Martha clarified quickly, to create legal legitimacy. It wouldn't be real. But a marriage of convenience for adoption. It would be a marriage of redemption. Two people destroyed by the same tragedy, coming together to save what can be saved. Marcus considered the proposal. It was bizarre, but perhaps the only way to give Chloe a stable family. And could you do that? Marry the man who killed your daughter? I would do anything for Chloe, Martha answered without hesitation. The question is, could you marry knowing I'll never be able to forgive you completely? I could do it, he said, after a long pause, because it's not about us. It's about giving Chloe a chance to be happy. It was a strange agreement, built on a foundation of mutual sacrifice and shared love for a child. But perhaps it was exactly the kind of unconventional solution their situation demanded. The following week brought rapid developments. Brenda and Gary traveled to the ranch for a definitive conversation about Chloe's future. The meeting was tense, but productive. Are you sure about this? Gary asked for the 10th time. Transferring custody is a permanent decision. We're sure, Brenda replied firmly. Chloe isn't happy with us, Gary, and forcing her to move would be cruel. But the legal implications, the financial ones… Gary, Martha interrupted, if it's about the child support money, you can rest easy. We don't want any of it. It's not about the money, he protested, but his tone suggested otherwise. Then what is it about? Marcus asked, joining the conversation for the first time. Gary glared at him with poorly disguised hostility. It's about leaving a child with someone like you. Gary? Brenda scolded him. What? You want me to ignore the fact that this man is a murderer? The silence that followed was heavy. Chloe, who was playing on the porch, stopped and looked through the window, sensing the tension. Gary, Martha said calmly, you're right to be concerned. Marcus committed a terrible crime. But he paid his debt and is trying to build a better life. More importantly, Chloe trusts him and is happy in his presence. How do you know he won't do something again? Because, a small voice spoke from the doorway, Uncle Marcus saved my life. Chloe had entered quietly and was standing at the entrance to the room with an expression too serious for her 8 years. Chloe, Brenda called, go play outside while the adults talk. No, she said with surprising firmness. You're talking about me. I can give my opinion. The adults exchanged glances, none knowing exactly how to handle the child's determination. Uncle Gary, Chloe continued, walking up to him, do you think Uncle Marcus is bad? Chloe, it's complicated. It's not complicated, she interrupted. Bad people don't take care of scared children. Bad people don't fix houses for other people to live in. Bad people don't cry when they feel bad about what they did. Her simple words carried a truth that no adult argument had managed to express. Uncle Marcus did a bad thing before he knew me, she continued. But with me he's always been good. And Grandma says that sometimes good people do bad things, but that doesn't mean they're bad forever. Gary looked at the girl, clearly shaken by her passionate defense of Marcus. Chloe, you understand that if we do this, you won't live with us anymore. I know, she replied, and I want to stay here, with Grandma and Uncle Marcus. They make me happy. And us? Don't we make you happy? Chloe hesitated, clearly not wanting to hurt his feelings. You try, she said finally. But you get tired of me. Here, nobody gets tired of me. The child's brutal honesty left Gary speechless. Brenda stood up and hugged Chloe. "Honey, we never get tired of you. We just don't know how to help you when you get sad." "But Grandma and Uncle Marcus do," Chloe replied, hugging her back. "They get sad with me and then we get happy together." It was a perfect description of genuine empathy versus superficial sympathy. Gary sighed deeply, looking around the room. The transformed ranch, Chloe's drawings on the walls, the atmosphere of a genuine home. It was undeniable that the child had found her place. "Brenda is right," he said finally. "Chloe belongs here. I just hope you know what you're doing." "We know," Martha answered. "We're creating an unconventional family, but a real family." The following days were dedicated to legal paperwork. Martha's lawyer had found precedents for their unique situation, and the custody transfer process officially began. Marcus and Martha also started the process for a civil marriage. It was a small ceremony at the courthouse, with Chloe as the only witness. It wasn't romantic or traditional, but it was honest. "Why are you getting married?" Chloe asked on the way to the courthouse. "So we can officially be a family," Martha explained. "Sometimes adults need papers to prove things children already know." "And what do I already know?" "That we love you," Marcus said, "each in our own way, and that we'll do anything to take care of you." The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. There were no kisses or declarations of eternal love. There were just two adults legally committing to raising together a child who had united them in an impossible way. "Are we a real family now?" Chloe asked as they left the courthouse. "We're a real family now," Martha confirmed. "With papers to prove it?" Chloe insisted, remembering an expression she'd heard. "With papers to prove it," Marcus laughed. The custody process took another 3 months with hearings, social worker visits, and psychological evaluations. Chloe participated in several sessions with child psychologists, always clearly expressing her preference to live with her grandmother and Marcus. The final hearing was scheduled for a rainy Tuesday. The courtroom was full. Martha and Marcus, Brenda and Gary, several social workers, lawyers, and the judge who had overseen the entire process. "This is a highly unusual case," the judge began. "Rarely do we have a situation where the victim and the perpetrator of a crime come together to care for a child affected by that same crime." He paused, consulting his documents. "However," he continued, "after reviewing all reports, interviews and evaluations, one thing is clear. Chloe Sterling Harrison thrives in the environment provided by Mrs. Sterling and Mr. Harrison." The use of Chloe's married name made everyone's heart race. It was a good sign. The social worker's reports are consistent in showing the child is happier, more emotionally stable, and healthier when in the care of the petitioners. Furthermore, the judge continued, the current foster parents have voluntarily agreed to the transfer of custody, acknowledging they cannot meet the child's specific needs. He looked directly at Chloe, who was seated between Martha and Marcus. "Chloe, do you have anything you'd like to say to the court?" Chloe stood up with the seriousness of a little adult. "I want to stay with my family," she said clearly. "Grandma Martha and Uncle Marcus, Daddy Marcus, they love me just the way I am." The word daddy came out naturally, surprising even Marcus. He felt tears burning his eyes. "They don't try to make me forget my real mommy and daddy," Chloe continued. "They help me remember them in a way that doesn't hurt so much." "Very well, Chloe," the judge said gently. "You may sit down." He consulted his papers one last time before delivering his verdict. By this order, the court grants full legal custody of Chloe Sterling Harrison to Mrs. Martha Sterling Harrison and Mr. Marcus Sterling Harrison, recognized as a legal family unit. The room erupted with emotion. Chloe shouted with joy, jumping into Marcus's arms, while Martha cried with relief. Even Brenda and Gary smiled, genuinely happy for the positive resolution. "However," the judge added, restoring silence, "this decision comes with conditions. Mr. Harrison will remain under court supervision for 2 more years. Any violation of your parole will result in the immediate re-evaluation of this decision." "We understand, Your Honor," Marcus Harrison replied. Additionally, the family will participate in monthly family therapy sessions for the next 6 months to ensure this transition is healthy for everyone involved. "We accept all the conditions," Martha Sterling said. "Then it is decided. Chloe Sterling Harrison will remain under the legal guardianship of her new legal parents. This hearing is adjourned." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Outside the courthouse, the new family embraced in the light rain. Chloe was radiant, finally having the legal certainty that she wouldn't be separated from the people she loved. "Can I call you Daddy now?" she asked Marcus. "If you want," he answered, his voice choked. "And can I call you my parents when people ask?" "Of course you can," Martha said. "We're a family now, official and complete." The trip back to the ranch was joyful, with Chloe chattering about all the plans she had now that she knew she could stay. She wanted to plant a garden, get a dog, learn to cook like Grandma. "And can I invite other kids to come play?" she asked. "What other kids?" Martha questioned, remembering how isolated they were in the valley. "I don't know yet, but now that I'm happy, maybe other kids will want to be my friends." Chloe's logic made the adults smile. The child had understood that happiness attracts happiness. Back at the ranch, they spent the afternoon rearranging the house to reflect their new reality. Chloe insisted that Martha and Marcus's room be decorated like a real couple's room, even though she knew the marriage was only on paper. "Why is that important to you?" Marcus asked. "Because you got married for my sake," she explained, "so I want it to at least look real, even if it isn't." The observation showed how well Chloe had understood the sacrificial nature of their family situation. That night, for the first time, the three of them sat at the dinner table as an official family. Martha had prepared Chloe's favorite dish, Marcus had set the table with special care, and Chloe had made a commemorative drawing of the occasion. "Can we make a toast?" Chloe suggested. "With what?" Martha asked, amused. "With orange juice. Daddy said it's for celebrating important things." They raised their glasses of juice, smiled at each other, and toasted to the uncertain but hopeful future they had chosen to build together. The first months as an official family brought unique challenges. Marcus had to learn to be a father to a traumatized 8-year-old. Martha had to adjust to sharing Chloe with another adult. And Chloe had to navigate the complexity of loving someone connected to her greatest loss. The family therapy sessions were essential. Dr. Susan, the assigned psychologist, helped them face issues they had avoided discussing. "Chloe," she said during one session, "do you truly understand who Marcus is in relation to your biological parents?" "He's the man who was driving the car," Chloe replied calmly. "But now he's my daddy too." "And how do you feel about that?" "Sometimes I get confused," Chloe admitted. "But when I get confused, I draw. And in my drawings, I see that he's taking care of Mommy's house for me. So it gets less confusing." "And you?" Dr. Susan asked the adults. "How do you handle this complexity?" "It's difficult every day," Martha admitted, "but Chloe is more important than my feelings." "And you, Marcus?" "I live with the guilt constantly," he said, "but I also live with the gratitude of being able to do something positive with the rest of my life." "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive?" "Forgiveness is complicated," Martha answered, "but perhaps acceptance is possible." The sessions continued for 6 months, helping them build a solid emotional foundation for their unconventional family. Meanwhile, life at the ranch settled into a comfortable routine. Marcus worked on the property during the day, Martha took care of the house and homeschooled Chloe, and afternoons were dedicated to family activities. Chloe began attending school in the nearby town, where she initially faced curiosity about her unusual family. But her determined nature and obvious happiness at home soon won over teachers and classmates. "How is school?" Marcus asked one day after a parent-teacher meeting. "Good," Chloe replied. "The teacher said I'm the most determined child she's ever seen, and that my drawings are getting very beautiful." "And the other students?" "At first they asked strange questions about why you're my daddy if you don't look like me. But I explained that family isn't about looking the same, it's about loving the same." Her simple words contained a wisdom that impressed the adults. As the months passed, subtle changes began to appear in the family dynamic. Martha began to treat Marcus less like a necessary stranger and more like a genuine partner in raising Chloe. Marcus began to see himself less as an intruder carrying guilt and more as a dedicated father. And Chloe flourished. Her drawings evolved from obsessive repetitions of the lost house to vibrant scenes of life at the ranch. She began to draw not just the past, but also the present, and even an imagined future. "Look at this one," she said one day, showing a new drawing. "It's our family in 10 years. The drawing showed 3 older figures on the ranch porch, with a 4th, smaller figure, a child, playing in the garden. "Who is the little child?" Martha asked. "I don't know yet," Chloe said casually. "But maybe you'll have another baby for me to take care of. Or maybe it's a child who needs a family, like I did." Chloe's suggestion revealed how she had internalized the idea that families form through love and need, not just biology. Chloe's first anniversary, as an official part of the family, was celebrated with a small but meaningful party. She had insisted they invite Brenda and Gary, showing she held no resentment toward her previous adoptive parents. "Why do you want them to come?" Martha asked. "Because they tried to love me," Chloe explained. "And even though it didn't work out, they deserve to see that I'm okay." The child's emotional maturity continued to surprise the adults. Brenda and Gary accepted the invitation, arriving nervous but genuinely interested in seeing how Chloe was developing. The difference was obvious. She was taller, more confident, more articulate. "You look very happy," Brenda observed. "I am very happy," Chloe confirmed. "Grandma? I mean, Mommy Martha teaches me about Mommy's family, and Daddy Marcus teaches me about fixing things and growing plants, and I teach them about drawings and about not being sad for too long. And school? I like school. I have friends now, and the teacher said I can join the art club next year." The conversation flowed naturally, with Chloe serving as a bridge between her two families. It was clear she had found peace with her complex situation. "You've done a good job," Gary admitted to Martha and Marcus. "She's whole. She wasn't like that with us." "You tried," Marcus replied generously, "and that matters. Chloe knows you tried to love her. And now you can visit us whenever you want," Chloe added. "You can be like special uncles." Chloe's proposal created an extended family dynamic that no one had expected, but that worked well for everyone. As months turned into years, the unconventional family became an accepted part of the rural community. Marcus established himself as a respected carpenter, Martha as the region's wise matriarch, and Chloe as the artistic child who had overcome tragedies with grace. When Chloe turned 10, she insisted on having a special party. "It's not just my birthday," she explained. "It's our family's birthday too." She had calculated it had been exactly 2 years since they became an official family and wanted to celebrate both dates together. The party was bigger than previous ones, with neighbors, schoolmates, Brenda and Gary, and even some of Marcus's former prison mates who had become genuine friends. During the party, Chloe asked to make a speech. "I want to thank everyone for coming," she began, surprisingly eloquent for a 10-year-old. "This party is special because it celebrates how sometimes bad things can turn into good things." She paused, looking at Martha and Marcus. 2 years ago, I was a sad girl who didn't have a real family. Daddy Marcus was a sad man who thought he didn't deserve to be loved, and Mommy Martha was a sad grandma who had lost all her family. But then," she continued, "we found each other. And we discovered that when sad people come together with love, they can become happy together." Her eyes shone with happy tears. "Now we are a real family. Not a normal family, but a special family. And I love my special family more than anything in the world." The silence that followed was broken by emotional applause. There wasn't a dry eye at the party. Marcus approached Chloe and hugged her. "We love our special family too," he said, "and you are its heart." "No," Chloe corrected. "All 3 of us are the heart, because a heart needs all its parts to work." That night, after all the guests had left, the family sat on the porch as they had so many times before. Red Rock Valley was bathed in moonlight, creating dramatic shadows on the mountains. "Do you think my real mum and dad would be happy with our family?" Chloe asked, a question that had clearly been on her mind for some time. Martha and Marcus exchanged glances, searching for the right words. "Chloe," Martha finally said, "your mother always wanted you to be happy and loved. If she could see you now, she would smile knowing we've achieved that." "And your father," Marcus added, his voice heavy with emotion. "He wanted you to grow up strong and confident. You've become everything they dreamed you would be. Even living with the man who caused the accident." The direct question forced Marcus to face the reality that had shaped their lives. "Chloe, I can never undo what I did. But I can try to honor your parents' memory by being the best father I can be for you. I think they would understand that." "I think so too," Chloe said, snuggling between the two adults. "And I think they would want you to not be sad about the accident anymore. Why? Because too much sadness gets in the way of loving properly, and they wanted me to be very loved." Chloe's wisdom continued to surprise. At 10 years old, she had grasped concepts of forgiveness and redemption that many adults never master. The following years brought growth and change for everyone. Chloe became an articulate and talented teenager, her drawings evolving into complex paintings that gained regional recognition. Martha became a respected figure in the community, known for her wisdom and generosity. Marcus established a thriving carpentry business, employing other former inmates and helping them with social reintegration. When Chloe turned 16, she received a full scholarship to an art school in a big city. The opportunity was incredible, but it meant leaving the ranch and her family. "I don't have to go," she said during the dinner where they discussed the offer. "I can study art right here." "Chloe," Martha said firmly, "this is the opportunity of a lifetime. You can't refuse it because of us." "But you are my life," she protested. "And we always will be," Marcus added. "But you need to see the world, meet different people, develop your talents. That's what your biological parents would have wanted for you." "And what about you?" "We want you to fly," Martha said, tears in her eyes. "We want you to explore all the potential you have." The decision was difficult, but Chloe finally accepted the scholarship. The preparation for her departure was emotional for everyone. On the last day before traveling, Chloe insisted on visiting all the special places at the ranch. The barn where Marcus had found her, the garden they had planted together, the porch where so many important conversations had happened. "I'm going to miss every corner of this place," she said. "And we will miss every second with you," Marcus replied. On that final night, she presented her parents with a special gift, a book of drawings and paintings documenting her entire life at the ranch. Each page told part of her journey, from the early obsessive drawings of the lost house to the vibrant paintings of her happy family. "It's our story," she explained, "for you to remember when I'm not here." The last image in the book showed the three of them on the porch, but this time Chloe was painted with wings, as if ready to fly while keeping her roots firmly at the ranch. "I'll come back," she promised. "This will always be my home, and you will always be my family." "We know," Martha said, hugging her, "and we'll be here waiting, proud of every step you take." Chloe's departure was tearful but full of hope. She had grown from a traumatized, lost child into a confident young woman, ready to conquer the world while holding the love of her unconventional family as her anchor. At art school, Chloe flourished even more. Her works, often inspired by her unique story of loss and redemption, gained national attention. She became known as the young artist who transformed trauma into beauty, pain into hope. During her school years, she returned to the ranch whenever possible. Each return was a celebration, with Chloe sharing her experiences and learnings, while Martha and Marcus shared news from the rural community. "You've changed too," she observed during one visit. "You seem lighter." It was true. The years of raising Chloe together had transformed both Martha and Marcus. She had found renewed purpose after devastating loss. He had found redemption through parental love. Both had discovered that healing is possible, even in the most impossible circumstances. When Chloe graduated at 21, Her final exhibition was titled Family Found. The centerpiece was an installation representing the ranch in Red Rock Valley, with 3 figures interconnected by golden threads representing love, loss, and redemption. "It's about you," she explained to Martha and Marcus, who had traveled for the graduation. "It's about how love can grow in the most unlikely places." The exhibition was a success, with several galleries offering Chloe contracts. But she surprised everyone by announcing her plans. "I'm going back home," she said. "I want to set up a studio at the ranch and work from there." "Chloe, you have the world at your feet," Martha protested. "You can't waste that by going back to our isolated little corner." "I'm not wasting anything," Chloe replied. "I'm choosing where I want to build my life, and I want to build it with you, in the place that taught me what family is." Chloe's decision brought a new energy to the ranch. She converted one of the barns into an art studio, where she created pieces she sent to galleries all over the world. But her inspiration remained rooted in the simple life with her adoptive parents. At 25, Chloe met Austin, a veterinarian who had moved to the area. The relationship blossomed naturally, with Austin quickly being accepted by the unconventional family. "Does he understand our story?" Marcus asked, when Chloe announced the serious relationship. "He understands and respects it," she replied. "He said he's never seen a family so united by conscious choice rather than just obligation." When Austin asked Chloe to marry him, he insisted on formally asking Martha and Marcus, recognizing them as her true parents. "I promise to care for her as you have," he told the couple, "and I promise to honor this family you built together." The wedding was celebrated at the ranch itself, with a simple but moving ceremony. Chloe wore her biological mother's dress, which Martha had kept all those years. Marcus walked her down the aisle, a moment no one had imagined possible years before. "Thank you," Chloe whispered to him before meeting Austin, "for teaching me that family is a choice, not just fate." "Thank you," he whispered back, "for teaching me that redemption is possible." The first years of Chloe's marriage brought more changes. She and Austin built a small house on the property, staying close but independent. When they announced they were expecting a baby, the joy at the ranch was indescribable. "I'm going to be a real grandma," Martha laughed, touching Chloe's still small belly. "And I'm going to be a grandpa," Marcus added, marveling at the prospect. "You've always been my real grandma and grandpa," Chloe corrected. "Now you'll be great-grandma and great-grandpa too." The baby, a girl named Serafina, was born on a spring morning. When Marcus held her for the first time, his tears weren't of sadness for the first time in decades. "She's perfect," he murmured. "Just as you were perfect when you came to us," Martha said, watching the scene. Serafina grew up surrounded by the love of 4 generations. Martha, now 78 but still vibrant, told family stories to her great-granddaughter. Marcus, at 62, taught Serafina to work with wood as soon as she was old enough to hold safe tools. Chloe documented every moment through her art, and Austin brought the medical and emotional stability that completed the family. When Serafina turned 5, she asked a question everyone had been expecting. "Grandpa Marcus, why do you sometimes look sad when you see my mommy's pictures from when she was little?" The innocent question opened the door to a conversation they had put off for years. "Serafina," Chloe knelt beside her daughter, "Grandpa Marcus sometimes feels sad because a long time ago, before you were born, before I was his daughter, he did something that hurt our family." "Did he hurt you?" "Not directly, but he caused an accident that made my heart parents go to heaven." Serafina processed the information with the seriousness of a smart child. "My heart parents? Your other grandparents, the parents who made me, before Grandpa Marcus and Grandma Martha raised me. And now? Now Grandpa Marcus takes care of us because he wants to fix what was broken, and he did fix it by creating a beautiful family for me." Serafina looked at Marcus with big, thoughtful eyes. "Grandpa, you don't feel sad anymore?" "Sometimes I still do," he admitted honestly, "but when I look at you and your mommy, I feel more happy than sad." "Then it's okay," Serafina declared with the simple logic of children. "Mommy draws sad things to feel happy. You can do that too." The suggestion made everyone laugh. Serafina had inherited Chloe's emotional wisdom, offering simple solutions to complex problems. The years kept passing, bringing changes and growth. Martha, now 83, began talking about preparing the family for her eventual departure. "I'm not going to live forever," she said during a family dinner, "and I want to make sure everyone knows how I feel about our family." "Grandma, don't talk like that," Chloe protested. "I need to talk, dear. I need you all to know that these have been the best years of my life. Not the years before the tragedy, not the years of mourning after. These years, raising you with Marcus, watching you grow, getting to know Austin and Serafina, these were the years that gave meaning to everything I lived before." She looked at Marcus, her eyes full of an emotion he couldn't completely identify. "And Marcus, I need you to know that I have completely forgiven you. I don't know when it happened exactly, but it did. You became the son I lost, the father Chloe needed, the grandpa Serafina loves. You redeemed yourself through love, and I love you as true family." The words hit Marcus like a bolt of lightning. After all these years, hearing explicitly that Martha had forgiven him brought a peace he didn't know he still needed. "Martha," he said, his voice breaking, "you have given me more than I ever deserved. You gave me a family, a purpose, a second chance. There are no words to express my gratitude." "You don't need words," she smiled. "You just need to keep being the good man you've become." Martha lived another 5 years after that conversation, long enough to see Serafina start school, to see more of Chloe's exhibitions, to see Marcus establish a reintegration program for ex-convicts in the region. She died peacefully in her sleep at 88, surrounded by the family she had chosen to build. Her funeral was a celebration of a life well lived. People from all over the region came to honor the woman who had transformed tragedy into triumph, who had chosen love over hate, who had built an impossible but perfect family. Chloe spoke at the funeral, her voice steady despite the tears. "My mother Martha taught me that family isn't about blood or circumstances. It's about the conscious choice to love someone every day, especially on the hard days. She chose to love me when I was a lost child. She chose to forgive when it would have been easier to hate. She chose to build instead of destroy. That is the legacy she leaves us." After the funeral, the family gathered at the ranch, now without its matriarch. Martha's absence was palpable, but her presence remained in every corner of the property she had helped transform. "What do we do now?" Chloe asked, feeling momentarily lost without Martha's guidance. "We continue," Marcus answered. "We continue being the family she helped us create. We continue honoring her memory through the love she taught us. And if we don't know how, then we remember what she would say," Austin suggested. "She always had the right answer." "She would say to stop worrying so much and start living more," Serafina said, surprising the adults with her insight. "She always said that when you guys were thinking too much." The child's observation made everyone laugh through their tears. Serafina had perfectly captured Martha's practical philosophy. The following months were an adjustment. Marcus, now 72, assumed the role of family patriarch with the quiet dignity that had always characterized him. Chloe found renewed inspiration in her art, creating a series dedicated to Martha's memory. Austin and Serafina provided the generational continuity that kept the family looking forward. When Serafina turned 10, the same age Chloe was when she began to blossom at the ranch, she made a surprising announcement. "I want to do an exhibition about our family," she said during dinner. "What kind of exhibition?" Chloe asked, intrigued. "An art exhibition, but also of history. With your drawings, Mom, but also with photos and objects and stories, to show how families can form in different ways." The idea was ambitious for a 10-year-old, but the family decided to support her. Over the following months, Serafina worked with Chloe, organizing decades of art, photographs, and memories. The exhibition, held at the local school, was titled Love Finds a Way. Serafina had created a visual timeline of the family, from the tragic accident to the present, showing how pain can be transformed into beauty. "This is my family," she explained to visitors, with the confidence inherited from Chloe. "It's not a normal family, but it's a perfect family. Because when you truly love someone, it doesn't matter how they came to you." The exhibition attracted attention far beyond the local community. Journalists came to document the extraordinary story of the unconventional family. But for Serafina, the most important moment was when she saw Marcus crying with pride next to a photo where he appeared holding her as a baby. "Grandpa, are you still sad?" "Not anymore, Serafina," he answered honestly. "Now, I'm just grateful." As Serafina grew, it became clear she had inherited Chloe's artistic talent and Martha's emotional wisdom. By 15, she was already creating her own works, exploring themes of redemption and family through her own generational perspective. "It's different for you," Chloe observed, seeing her daughter's paintings. "You grew up knowing the whole story from a young age. You didn't have to discover it piece by piece like I did." "That's true," Serafina agreed. "For me, Grandpa Marcus has always just been my grandpa who loves me. The sad part of the story is just that, history. The important part is the love of now." Serafina's perspective represented true generational healing. She knew the past, but did not carry its weight. She saw Marcus only as the loving grandfather she had always known, not as the man who had made a terrible mistake decades before. When Serafina turned 18, she received offers from several art universities. Unlike Chloe, she did not hesitate to accept. "I want to see the world," she said, "but I want to come back and bring the world with me. Maybe we can turn the ranch into an artist residency, a place where artists can come to heal and create." The idea was ambitious but not impossible. The property had the space, the family had experienced transforming lives, and their story had a unique appeal. Over the next 2 years, while Serafina studied, the family began planning the transformation. Marcus, despite his advanced age, led the necessary renovations. Chloe developed a curriculum combining therapy through art with traditional techniques. Austin arranged the medical and psychological aspects of the program. When Serafina returned from university at 22, she found the ranch transformed into an artist residency center called Redemption Valley. The first group of residents would arrive the following month, a mix of established artists seeking inspiration and people recovering from trauma seeking healing through art. "You really did this," Serafina marveled, seeing the new studios and guest rooms. "We did this," Marcus corrected. "Your idea, our execution. We're a team, remember?" The residency program was an immediate success. The unique combination of an inspiring rural setting, a family history of overcoming, and expertise in turning pain into art attracted participants from all over the world. Marcus, now 77, became an almost legendary figure among the residents. His story of redemption through family love especially inspired those struggling with guilt and regret. "How did you manage to forgive yourself?" asked a young man who had caused a traffic accident. "I never completely forgave myself," Marcus answered honestly. "But I learned that self-forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a daily journey. Every day I wake up and choose to do something that honors the people I hurt. Eventually, doing good becomes stronger than carrying the guilt." Chloe, now an internationally recognized artist, divided her time between her own creations and mentoring the residents. Her art therapy sessions were especially sought after. "Art doesn't erase pain," she taught. "It transforms it into something that can help others. When you paint your sadness, it stops being just your sadness and becomes a bridge for someone who needs to know they're not alone." Austin maintained the medical foundation of the program, ensuring all participants received proper psychological support. And Serafina, the youngest on the team, brought a renewing energy that was contagious. "Did you come here to carry your pain?" she would ask new residents during orientation. "Because if so, you're in the wrong place. Here we don't carry pain. We transform it into beautiful things." At 30, Serafina married Dylan, a musician who had participated in the residency years before and had never been able to forget the place that had transformed his life. The ceremony was held at the same spot where Chloe had married, continuing the tradition of celebrating family milestones at the ranch. Marcus, now 82, walked Serafina down the aisle as he had done for Chloe. His steps were slower, but his presence was even more impactful. "Thank you, Grandpa," Serafina whispered, "for teaching me that stories don't end with tragedies. They restart with choices." "Thank you," he whispered back, "for teaching me that redemption has no expiration date." 2 years after the wedding, Serafina gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Marcus, now a great-grandfather at 84, held the babies with trembling but steady hands. "What will we call them, who?" he asked. "Mason and Daisy," Serafina answered. "Mason for the grandfather you lost in childhood, Daisy for great-grandmother Martha." The decision to honor both Marcus's lost family and Martha's memory showed how Serafina had fully embraced the complex family history. Mason and Daisy grew up surrounded by stories of overcoming and love. By 5, they knew the full family story, adapted for their age, but honest about how it had been formed. "Grandpa Rick did a very bad thing before we were born," Daisy would explain to visitors with the ease of someone who had grown up with the truth. "But then he did lots of good things. So now he's just good. And he loves us very much," Mason would add. "He built a playground just for us in the garden." The children's perspective of Marcus was pure and uncomplicated. To them, he was simply the loving great-grandfather who told stories, taught woodworking, and always had time for their endless questions. When Marcus turned 88, the same age Martha was when she died, the family organized a special celebration, not just of his birthday, but of a life of complete redemption. 43 years ago, Chloe said in her speech, "a man made a terrible mistake that changed our lives forever. But for the last 40 years, that same man chose every day to be better, to love more, to give more than he received." She paused, looking at the man who had been her savior, father, grandfather, and example of how people can truly change. "Dad," she continued, using the title he had earned through love, not biology, "you didn't just redeem yourself. You created a legacy of love that will continue for generations." Marcus, now frail but still lucid, looked around the room full of people whose lives he had touched positively. Former residents of the art residency, neighbors who had become friends, the extended family she had chosen and been chosen by. "I don't deserve any of this," he said, his voice still steady despite his age. "But I am grateful for every day I was allowed to stay, every person who gave me a second chance, every moment of love I received without deserving it." He looked specifically at Chloe, Serafina, Dylan, Mason, and Daisy. "You taught me that family is about the daily choice to care for someone. That forgiveness is possible when accompanied by true change. That love can grow in any soil, even the most unlikely. And you taught us," Serafina replied, "that it's never too late to start over, if you're willing to work every day to be better." Marcus lived 2 more years after that celebration, long enough to see Mason and Daisy start school, to see another class of residents transform through art and love, to see the legacy he had helped build solidify into something permanent and positive. He died peacefully on a spring afternoon, sitting on the porch he had rebuilt decades before, watching Mason and Daisy play in the garden he had planted. His last words were for Chloe, who had come running when they realized he was passing. "Thank you," he whispered, "for letting me be your father." "Thank you," she whispered back, "for choosing to be my father every day." Marcus's funeral was a celebration of complete redemption. Hundreds of people attended, not to mourn a criminal who had died, but to honor a man who had dedicated the second half of his life to fixing what he had broken in the first. Chloe spoke at the funeral, her voice steady despite the pain of loss. "My father, Marcus, taught me that we are not defined by our worst moments, but by our choices every day after those moments. He chose every day for 40 years to be better than he had been. He chose to love instead of wallow. He chose to build instead of destroy." She paused, looking at Serafina, Dylan, Mason, and Daisy in the front row. "And he left us a ranch full of love, an art residency that transforms lives, and proof that true redemption is possible for anyone willing to work for it." After the funeral, the family gathered on the porch where so many important conversations had happened. Red Rock Valley was bathed in the golden light of late afternoon, exactly as Marcus had always loved. "What do we do now?" Mason asked, with the serious concern of a 7-year-old. "We continue," Chloe answered, echoing the words Marcus had said when Martha died. "We continue being the family he helped us create." "And the art residency?" It continues too, Serafina assured. It's part of his legacy, part of how he turned his tragedy into something that helps other people. Does he come back to visit us like Grandma Martha? Daisy asked. In a way, Chloe said, pointing to the surrounding mountains. Every time we see how beautiful this place is, every time we help someone who is hurting, every time we choose love over anger, he is here with us. The following years brought continuous change and growth. Chloe took over full direction of the art residency, Serafina became the coordinator of educational programs, and Dylan developed a complementary music program. Mason and Daisy grew up among artists in recovery, naturally absorbing the lessons that pain can be transformed into beauty, that second chances must be offered and honored, that family is about the conscious choice to care. When Mason turned 15, he surprised everyone by announcing he wanted to study law. Why? Chloe asked, curious. Because I want to help people like Grandpa Rick, he explained. People who made mistakes but want to do better. The legal system doesn't always understand that people can truly change. Daisy, for her part, showed a talent for child psychology. I want to help children who have been through bad things, she said. Like Mommy went through, like Grandpa Rick went through. Everyone deserves to have a family that understands. The next generation was clearly destined to continue the legacy of turning pain into purpose. When Chloe turned 50, the Redemption Valley Artist Residency was internationally recognized as a model for how art and love can heal deep trauma. Hundreds of people had gone through its programs, many leaving transformed in ways they had never imagined possible. During Chloe's 50th birthday celebration, Serafina made a special revelation. Mummy, do you remember when you were little and you always drew the same house? Of course, it was a way of processing the loss of my parents. Well, yesterday Mason showed me some drawings he made, and Daisy has similar drawings too. Chloe grew worried. Were the children developing artistic obsessions as a defense mechanism? What kind of drawings? Serafina smiled and showed the papers. Both Mason and Daisy had drawn the ranch, not repetitively, but as a celebration. Their drawings showed the property full of happy people, with flourishing gardens and artistic activities happening in every corner. They're not processing trauma, Serafina explained. They're documenting joy, drawing the home they know and love. The difference was fundamental. Chloe had drawn obsessively, trying to recover what she had lost. Mason and Daisy drew, celebrating what they had. This is how we know it worked, Chloe murmured, touched. We broke the cycle. They grew up with enough love that their art comes from happiness, not from pain. That night, Chloe sat on the porch, where so many important conversations had happened. At 50, she was a fulfilled woman, a recognized artist, a loving mother, the director of a life-changing program. But more than that, she was living proof that families can form in the most unlikely ways, that love can grow in any soil, that redemption is possible for anyone willing to work for it. Looking at the Rocky Mountains that had been the backdrop for her extraordinary journey, Chloe whispered words of gratitude to the two parents she had lost biologically, to Martha, who had chosen to be her mother, and to Marcus, who had chosen to be her father. Thank you, she said to the valley that echoed her words, for teaching me that family is about choice, that love can heal any wound, that second chances can become first opportunities for an entirely new life. The mountain wind seemed to whisper back, carrying the voices of all who had loved and been loved at that special ranch at the bottom of Red Rock Valley. By Chloe's 60th year, the artist residency program had expanded to include a school specializing in therapy through art. Mason, now a law graduate specializing in ex-offender reintegration, had established an office in the nearby town. Daisy, a child psychologist, ran a program for traumatized children that operated in parallel with the artist residency. Do you realize, Chloe said during a family meeting, that we're all doing exactly what our parents prepared us to do? How so? Serafina asked. Daddy Marcus taught me that second chances are possible. Mason uses that to help ex-offenders. Grandma Martha taught me that love overcomes resentment. Daisy uses that to help wounded children. You, Serafina, learned that art transforms pain, and now you teach that to artists from all over the world. And you? Dylan asked. What are you doing? I am living proof that impossible families can work. Chloe smiled. I'm proving every day that when people choose to love instead of hate, to build instead of destroy, anything is possible. At that moment, Mason came running with news. Mom, the program we developed was approved by the state government. They're going to implement artistic residences like ours in other regions. The news meant that the model created at the ranch would be replicated, helping even more people transform their lives through art and love. Grandpa Rick would be so proud, Daisy said, tears in her eyes. He is proud, Chloe corrected. Somewhere, he knows the love he planted here is growing and spreading across the world. That night, as the family celebrated the expansion of the program, Chloe made an emotional discovery in the attic of the house. Hidden behind some loose boards, she found a box with Marcus's personal belongings that he had kept over the years. Inside the box were unsent letters, dozens of them, all addressed to the family of the woman who had died in the accident. Letters of apology written over decades, pleas for forgiveness he had never had the courage to send. But in the last letter, dated just a few weeks before his death, there was something different. Dear family I lost, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to write. I spent 40 years asking forgiveness for taking you away from Chloe. Today I realize that maybe I spent 40 years proving I deserve forgiveness, not for causing the accident. That can never be completely forgiven. But for loving Chloe as if she were my own daughter, for giving her a life full of art, love and purpose, for turning the property that should have been her inheritance into a place that heals others, for proving that even people who do terrible things can choose to do beautiful things for the rest of their lives. Chloe has become an extraordinary woman, a talented artist, a loving mother, an inspiring leader. Serafina is following in her footsteps, creating beauty and spreading love. Mason and Daisy have grown up knowing that family is a choice, that second chances must be honored. If you can see me now, I hope you see not the man who took you away from Chloe's life, but the man who chose to spend the rest of his life giving back to her everything he could. I don't know if that's enough, but I know it was all I had to give, with love and eternal gratitude for the extraordinary daughter you let me care for, Marcus. Chloe read the letter aloud to the whole family, her voice breaking several times. When she finished, the silence was broken by Mason. He truly redeemed himself completely, didn't he? Completely, Chloe confirmed. And he left us proof that true redemption is possible for anyone willing to dedicate their life to it. Daisy took the letter from Chloe's hands. Can we put this on the wall of the residence, so all the participants see that it doesn't matter what they did before, it matters what they choose to do after? I think he would like that, Chloe smiled through her tears. By Chloe's 70th year, the ranch in Red Rock Valley had become an international symbol of redemption and second chances. The story of the impossible family formed through tragedy and love had inspired books, documentaries, and similar programs around the world. But for Chloe, the real measure of success wasn't in the external recognition. It was in the letters she received from former program residents, telling how their lives had changed. It was in the drawings Mason and Daisy still made, always celebrating the family they had. It was in the way Serafina had raised her own children, knowing that love is a daily choice. You did it, Serafina said during Chloe's 70th birthday party. He turned the most impossible tragedy into the most beautiful love story. We did, Chloe corrected. Daddy Marcus, Grandma Martha, you, Dylan, the kids, we all did it together. What do you think he would say if he could see all this? Mason asked, pointing to the transformed property, full of happy people celebrating. Chloe thought for a moment, listening to the voices and laughter echoing through the valley. I think he would say, she finally replied, that every day of work was worth it. Every effort to be better, every choice to love instead of wallow. That this ranch full of life and love was the best gift he could have given to the frightened girl he found in the barn so many years ago. That night, Chloe sat alone on the porch for the last time as director of the artist residency. The next day she would officially be passing the directorship to Serafina, beginning her retirement at 70. Looking at the moon-washed Rocky Mountains, she could see her whole journey, the lost child she had been, the fulfilled woman she had become, the impossible family she had helped to build. "Thank you," she whispered to the silent valley, "for all the drawings that healed me, for all the loves that saved me, for all the second chances that turned tragedy into triumph." The echo of her voice mingled with the night wind from the mountains, carrying her words to wherever the spirits of Martha and Marcus were waiting, proud of the extraordinary family they had managed to build together on the special ranch at the far end of Red Rock Valley. End of story. This was a fictional story created to touch our hearts. Now tell us what you thought. Do you believe love can truly overcome the greatest tragedies? That true families are formed through choices, not just blood? Leave your comments sharing your experiences about second chances and forgiveness. Don't forget to leave a like if this story touched you, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving narratives like this one.